Hey everybody, JokerFit here. So yeah, I'm gonna do my first ever video game review and delivering up on what I said in my last soapbox on Friday. That I'm gonna review Mount&Blade, and this is gonna be a combination review. I'm also gonna be reviewing Mount&Blade Warband as well. So to kind of start things off, first thing I'm going to mention is the single player and what that's all about. So in the single player campaign, you can fully customize your character. You can choose a race, gender, and you can create their entire backstory pretty much. It gives you in the beginning a set of options to choose from, like you can choose. The first thing is who your father was. Was he an impoverished noble? Was he a veteran warrior? Or was he even a thief? And then you kind of go on through it of like, what did you train to become? What profession did you go into? And what's your reason for becoming an adventurer? And so pretty much all that does, that kind of determines your beginning stats, like your strength, intelligence, and charisma. And that affects skills that you have. And they all pretty much affect what your experience will be. And so after you get through with your beginning character customization, you go into the map, where pretty much you just start off as just you, and depending on what you chose as your backstory, you might have some certain weapons. If you choose to be a smith, then you will start off with some of the best weapons you can get. And so pretty much from there, it's open-ended as to what you want to do. And this goes for both games, both Mount&Blade, the original, and Warband. In Warband, however, you can choose what city you want to start off in. And that's pretty much, it doesn't really affect like who you are or whatever. It's just pretty much where you want to be. Every faction in the game has kind of a different appeal to them. You have some different areas, like you have the Kingdom of the Nords. And for those of you who played like Skyrim recently, you might be understand how the Nords are. They're the more Viking-like of all the factions. And you have the Sultanate, the Khanate. So, the Khanate, of course, is more of your, like, horse archers, like what you'd see in Genghis Khan type characters. And then you have your more, kind of, I guess, stereotypical medieval. You have, like, the Rhodoks, which they have a lot of good spearmen and whatnot. So pretty much it's just whoever you want, what kind of villagers you want to recruit in the beginning. So pretty much you start off on this battle, map of this entire made-up kingdom of Calradia, or I hope I'm saying that right, which it's, like I said, it's like a made-up medieval European kingdom that's divided into little sections. And so pretty much you start off, you can like go to villages and recruit volunteers for your army. And you can also do different tasks for the village elders, like getting cattle for the town, or warding off some troublesome bandits, or training the villagers to defend for themselves. And so you start off, it's like a little slow in the beginning. If you've played the Total War games, the campaign map might feel similar to you. It's pretty much really closely related, at least when it comes to the overview of the map. And when you're in the battles, though, it's completely different. Whenever you get into a fight, you go into a third-person mode, which you can also switch between first-person and third-person. But the first person in Mount&Blade is pretty much kind of like the third person in Fallout 3. If you get my meaning, it's not that great. But I guess if you like the first-person point of view, then. But and something that this game is really known for is having some great mounted combat. Depending on where you like position your mouse, how you move it, you can do directional attacks on horseback if you want to swipe from the left or the right. Maybe having a crushing blow from the, and then pretty much that's how the mounted combat goes. It's really great. It flows really nicely. And then once you get on foot, you have pretty much the same kind of general concept of the directional attacks, at least with your melee weapons. And you can get tons of different types of weapons in the game, in both games. You can get lances, swords, shields, crossbows, bows and arrows, all kinds of good stuff. And it's all really good. I don't really have any complaints about the combat itself. The game uses ragdoll physics if you have that setting turned on, which makes it even more satisfying to see whenever you take a person on those riding horseback out, just see them kind of get dragged behind their horse. So it's really authentic and cool. And depending on your settings, you can have up to 200 soldiers on each side of the battle. But be warned, though, that will lag up your system pretty good unless you have a powerful PC. My PC is kind of middle of the way. I have a laptop, and it runs the 200 actually pretty nicely. So both games are designed to run on the lower to mid-end systems pretty nicely. And this is an indie game, so it's not like it has the greatest graphics, which brings me to my next topic. And for an indie game, these graphics are exceptional. They look pretty darn good. The big difference comes in between Mount&Blade, the original, and Warband. Warband, of course, is going to have some better graphics. You know, it came out 2 years after the original. It all runs on the same engine. They just tweaked it a bit, so it's a lot better. Well, the effects are a lot better. If you're like wearing like plated armor, you know, the metal will shine off of it and the same stuff. And you don't really see a lot of those effects in the original Mount&Blade. So that kind of gives a slight edge to Warband. And so pretty much they tweaked it pretty good. A complaint I have about both games, though, is that you will run into some bland textures, like on the walls or the ground and whatnot. But that's kind of minor. You don't really pay attention unless you just go walking around the cities looking at the ground, which would be a little weird. Yeah, but it's pretty good. And if I had to like do a comparison of these graphics, I personally think that the original Mount&Blade maybe not quite as good as the Elder Scrolls Oblivion, and I think that Warband is probably a little bit better than Oblivion. So yeah. And so to get off the topics of the graphics and back to the single-player experience itself, you can go to these different cities around the game world where you can do a variety of stuff. You can go to these merchants who deal in armor, weapons, horses, and whatnot, and you can compete in these things called tournaments, which are pretty much like gladiator fights with big, huge teams of like a free-for-all, basically. And depending on what town you're in, it can have different rules. You can be like fighting primarily on horseback with ranged weapons, or you can be on the ground in the bloodbath and whatnot. So tournaments are really fun in the game, and they get you a good amount of money. So I recommend doing that, especially if you're starting off and you need it. And another thing that gives a slight edge to Warband is that in the game they introduce a new political aspect to it. It's not just create your character and go around doing whatever now. It's they actually have like slighter edges depending on who you play as. If you chose your background to be an impoverished noble, well, then you're going to have it easier because, you know, the lords will see that you're like equal of them. However, if you chose to be like, you know, the son of a thief, a street urchin and whatnot, then, they're not going to look at you the same way. And the same goes for your gender. If you choose to be a woman, then people will look at you differently. And it even says in the beginning of the text that the male gentry often dominated politics at this period of time in history. And it makes for as I said, it makes for a more challenging beginning game, and you can achieve all the same goals, no matter who you play as. So it's just a matter of personal preference. And so that's pretty much it about the single player. And pretty much your ultimate goal in single player, though, is to eventually become a ruler, or you can even start your own faction. And of course, the ultimate goal is to become emperor of all Calradia. And so yeah, it's really fun, really awesome single player. I definitely recommend it, especially people who are fans of RPGs or strategy games even. And now I'm going to go to focus on an aspect that is only available on Warband, and that'll be the multiplayer. So the multiplayer is, there's no campaign map like in single player. I don't know, I have seen mods where you can do that, but that's a different subject. And so you're just in these battles. There are different types of battles, like, just fighting in the fields, like just open battle. And there's also siege battles, which are really cool too. And so it's really cool. And it's a lot more, I guess you can say it's a lot more challenging than the single player. You can't take as much damage, and you have a set, certain spending limit in the multiplayer match. You can't just go in with the best armor available or whatnot. And so it's really cool. However, I said, though, is that sometimes things can get really bad if everybody just starts doing their own thing and nobody cares about working together as a team. And that kind of ruins the experience. But multiplayer is really good, and for you fans of medieval combat, it's, in my opinion, the best that you can find out there. And you can have up to, I believe it's up to 64 players online in vanilla Warband. And so that's just really cool. I highly recommend you check it out. And yeah, but that's Warband only. That's an aspect unique to Warband. The original Mount&Blade did not have that. So that gives another edge, if a greater one, to Warband. And so, yeah, this kind of brings me down to my conclusion. When comparing the two, I give Mount&Blade, the original, an 8.5 out of 10, and I give Warband a 9.5 out of 10. They're both great games, and essentially, when you come to it, they have the same, basic gameplay, except for just all the slight edges that Warband has over its predecessor add up and just make it an overall better game. It has improved graphics, improved gameplay. It has multiplayer, of course. And, yeah, that's just what makes it altogether a better game. So if you have to buy one or the other, I definitely recommend getting Warband. Essentially, it's just Mount&Blade 2.0. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it for me, guys. I hope you liked my first video game review. If this one goes over well, you might see me doing more in the future. Like I said, I hope to do a review of the Witcher games once I'm finished with them. And after that, who knows what? I just guess it just depends on whatever games come out, whatever I play, and whatnot. And you might see me doing actual movie reviews. I am planning on seeing The Avengers tomorrow, if everything goes as planned. Well, tomorrow being Sunday, May 6th. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for me, guys. Thanks for tuning in. This is Joker Fett signing out. Bye.